Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Conversations. Today we are doing my first SUV versus minivan comparison. We have on one side the 2023 Honda Odyssey and on the other side is the 2023 GMC Yukon XL. So we got both of these in the mid trim level. The outdoorsy AT4 for the Yukon XL and the mid EXL for the Odyssey. So let's start with the styling with the grille. The Yukon XL uses brushed aluminum in large parts of the grille with a humongous GMC badge in the middle. For 2021, the Odyssey got a new grille with blacked out parts instead of chrome. It also has a large Honda badge in the middle and real chrome on top of it. Now, as far as the headlights go, only the Yukon has fully LED headlights and fog lights. One thing that the Odyssey does not have is the LED turn signal. But the Odyssey has a good point with a split design because the blinker and the fog lights are at the bottom instead of all at the top. Now coming to the wheels, both will have wheels that are good in their own ways. The Odyssey has machined aluminum 18-inch alloys with a good meaty 60 series sidewall to soak up all the bumps. And since AT4 on the Yukon XL means outdoorsy, this will definitely show with the 20-inch machined aluminum alloy wheels in a split-spoke design. These measure 20 inches in diameter and will have all-terrain tires that wrap it. And coming up to our mirrors, this is where the Yukon has an advantage. Both will have mirror turn signals, but only the Yukon has pedal lamps and the side cameras. Of course, the Yukon will have a fully loaded mirror with auto dimming, heating, power folding, and blind spot monitoring, while the Odyssey has only heating, power adjusting, and blind spot monitoring. Now they will also have their good points, with the Yukon having power running boards and the Odyssey having the power sliding doors, which is a minivan only thing, obviously. And another special feature is that the Odyssey does have capless fuel. One nice thing about the Yukon is that it has a hidden rear wiper that is tucked right under the spoiler, which will clean up the looks of the rear glass. And as far as our taillights go, the Odyssey will have mostly incandescent lights with the exception of the taillights. That's what I like about the Yukon. It has completely LED lights standard across the board. Even the base SLE gets it. So that is definitely a point to the Yukon. Now GMC has an advantage with the materials, but Honda has the advantage with the versatility because the Odyssey is a minivan. Most of the Odyssey's materials are gray or black plastic, and that's pretty much it. You surprisingly have memory seats on this mid EXL trim, but the leather on the door is really not very nice to rest your arm on. And you do have white contrast stitching, and all of your switchgear will be in plastic, of course, because who wants fingerprints? Also, you will have automatic one-touch up and down windows that the GMC does not have. So, you see you have two cup holders on the top because, I don't know, they just wanted to do that. You also have a pocket there, and another pocket, and another cup holder. So, that's the versatility of the Odyssey. And as far as seat adjustments, both will offer 12 ways of power adjusting, including 4 ways of lumbar. And the seats, GMC will throw in real leather seats, and surprisingly on the EXL trim, you have leather seats too, but they are not perforated like you would get on a different trim. Now before we hop in, I want to mention the special yellow accents and piping on the AT4. Alright, so hopping into the Yukon is a very big step up, and you will be greeted with very cool animations, better than the Odyssey. And yeah, the Odyssey is so much lower to the ground, it's easier for the accessibility. You have a lot of controls down by your knee. I think it's a little bit much, but you do have a head-up display, you do have digital gauges, and that's about all I have to say. Just keep in mind your off-road modes and headlights are down there too. The button. And we start it up. After startup, the Odyssey will have a small screen in the middle of the analogs. You actually only have analogs for the engine temperature and the fuel tank capacity, and the rest is jammed into this small screen. You actually don't have a lot of adjustments for the screen, which is kind of sad. The Yukon, on the other hand, has a completely digital display with tons of adjustments and customization. You can actually customize the way the gauges look. Also at this price point, only the Yukon XL has a head-up display. Now let's move on to the steering wheel. Both will have nicely leather-wrapped steering wheels with paddle shifters on the back, but only the Yukon has power adjusting and heating. Now this is where the Odyssey doesn't do well. All of the upper dash is in leatherette and you have some aluminum, but everything else is in this cheapo matte black plastic, which is very unwelcome. Everything, it seems like, is in plastic, and the armrest is super short. So, not a big fan on the materials. Storage is surprisingly better in the Yukon XL because it uses a power sliding center console to reveal even more space than it already has. It also has a flashlight and a second phone holder. When in reverse, only the Yukon has a backup camera with a surround view and tons of different views. So you can actually push a button on the screen to reveal the cameras. Now let's take a look at the infotainment system. So both will have an infotainment system where you can adjust the climate controls and have physical buttons at the same time. But the Odyssey does have an unfortunate infotainment system where it's unintuitive and outdated. So it acts like an Android. Sometimes it doesn't respond. And did you see I was trying to swipe right and the home button didn't even register. So, not a big fan on Honda's infotainment systems. And coming to the climate controls, both will have physical buttons and knobs, and you can control the rear climate from the front. You can also control it from the screen, but we're not going to get into that. In addition to that, both will have 3 stages of heated seats, but only the Yukon has ventilated seats. And to wrap things up, only the Yukon XL has a large panoramic sunroof that goes to the second row. Alright, now we're on the passenger side of the Yukon XL. So you do have power running boards, and the seats are pretty comfortable. Lower back support is bad on both, but it's a lot more welcoming in the Yukon XL. Thanks because the materials are better, you have ambient lighting by your feet. It's just a nicer place to spend time over the Honda Odyssey, and you have tons of room. You also have nice leatherette on the top and a large piece of perforated leather right in front of you. Also, easy to reach is a sunglasses holder. Either way, we will get on the passenger side of the Odyssey, where it has 8 ways of power adjusting instead of 12 on the Yukon, and hopping on in is easy because it is low to the ground. The armrest is way too short for any arm, and you have aluminum and some soft touch plastic and a glove box that is pretty big. You can see all the stuff that the owners can fit into it. So now let's get into the second row. Access to the Odyssey's second row is easy because it is so low to the ground and kids will have hard time getting up inside the Yukon. Legroom is ample in the Odyssey, but the Yukon doesn't do too bad either. You also have a large seatback pocket and all other floor mats that are on this particular tester. Seats have mediocre support, especially on the lower back, so I wouldn't give it too much of a point there. But otherwise, it is pretty good. You can recline the seats, you can slide them, And you have a middle seat that can be turned into a console. You also have 2 more cup holders in there and 2 USB-A ports. So, nothing too special about the middle seat. You can make it go into a real seat, or you can make it fold down for a console, and the middle seat is quite comfortable too. However, while the Odyssey performs with the space and comfort, the Yukon can match the space and comfort. It will also have lots of room
out that there are
and
no
a seat back
sunshades
pocket,
here.
but you are missing sunshades, and that is not even offered on
and
the
it does not have second-row
$100,000
sunshades.
Denali
You can
Ultimate
get a
trim
Toyota
level.
Sienna
And
XLE for
I
like
think that is a pretty big
40
sacrifice
or no, under
for a
$40,000.
car that's nearly $80,000,
and it has sunshades.
and for the
This
Denali
does
Ultimate,
not.
which is
Why?
over $100,000. You do have a
Take a
rear
look
entertainment
down here.
system and rear climate
You
controls,
have your climate
which are
controls
mounted
right
nicely
here.
in the middle,
More of them down here.
not like the
These are
Odyssey
your
where it's
heated seats.
on
No
the
ventilated
top
seats. That's
of
not
the
gonna be
ceiling by the
that
passenger
nice.
side.
Well,
You have
if you want
3
ventilated
stages of
seats, go
heated
sit up
seats,
front. But
no ventilated
if it costs
seats. We do have 2
$77,000, give me
USBs and
ventilated
2
rear
USB-Cs.
USB ports are
Unlike the
illuminated.
Odyssey, which
USB-A
has
here,
only
USB-C
2
here,
USB-As.
and you have a little
So,
power outlet
pretty
down
nice
there.
back here. You
Let me
have
show you
a
the
household
turn
style
it on.
outlet, and you can watch Hulu,
You got a lot of
YouTube,
apps
and
here.
YouTube
Let's
Kids
go to YouTube.
on the back of the entertainment screen.
You can also
Let me see if I can find my
screen
channel.
1 and screen 2.
I want you to keep in mind that you can
Let me
get
see if
this
I can find car
entertainment system
conversations.
on both of the
I bet
seat
I
backs.
can. I can.
So, let me see if I can
There.
find car conversations, because one of my subscribers
There's
bought
my
me
YouTube channel.
this
Might
car.
be a little bit bright on camera.
Alright, so
there it is.
there's my
the
channel
homepage of my YouTube channel.
before I updated it.
And then
that's when I had 47 subscribers.
I think we'll leave
Thank
it there
you all
for now.
so much for 140.
Everything is very comfortable here.
That's a big
Very
jump.
roomy. Look at
But
this.
now let's go ahead and get into the
The
third
seat
row.
is what.
Third row access in the Yukon, super easy. You can either pull the lever twice or push a button twice, which I think is more convenient. So that will fold the seat down, push it again, and that will make the seat go up, and then you can climb into the third row. So access is not narrow. You've got plenty of room, and then I can sit down and pull that back, and you may not see very well on camera, but I have tons of room. Look at this. More than the Odyssey, I think. So I remember sitting in both of these. I know that the Yukon has more. You have a clear view of both screens, especially if you're sitting in the middle. And you have 2 cup holders on each side and 2 USB-Cs on each side, which I think is spot on, GMC. Alright, so now let's take a look at the cargo area. Both cars will shine in this area, and of course the SUV does too, with its large size. Now, the minivan does have a large deep well by the cargo area, so you can fit more stuff and stack a lot of stuff up for a road trip. You see, this family is getting ready for a road trip, and they do have lots of stuff and 3 kids. The courtesy cubby is on both sides, but if you get the Honda Odyssey Elite, which we do not have today, that will give you a Honda Vac, which is a vacuum. So, I think that cargo area, I'd call it even. Now moving over to the Yukon, I do want to mention that you can pop the rear glass by clicking a button and then opening it up, which I think is pretty cool, which most SUVs don't offer anymore. So you see, there it is. You could just grab something quick, put it in there, and you're good. But let's really open it up, and then let's get under it. The Yukon has tons of cargo space, even more than the Honda Odyssey. And you don't have many cubbies, but that's okay with the 41.4 cubic foot cargo area. Now, of course, the minivan cannot have the false floor because the trunk is too deep. And one cool feature is that you can power fold the third row from the back. And not only the third row, you can also do it to the second row, which I'm about to show you. It has to be held down with your finger, and Let's see what it does if I push the button. So the second row is up, that goes down, and then you can push it again to make easy access to the third row. So you see how I did that? I think that is pretty cool, only on the Yukon, but of course some other SUVs. Alright, so let's take a look at what's under the hood, because I remember thinking that the Honda Odyssey was wimpy in the last generations, and it was. 249 horsepower is not enough to power a minivan, but the Odyssey got an upgrade in 2018 with 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That is coming from a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. This is not the biggest number, but it is good, and it's good enough for me, and good enough for the Odyssey to get a 0 to 60 time of 7
For
seconds.
2022, they
Under the
gave
humongous hood of the Yukon
option of the
XL
6.2
is a
liter
huge
V8.
6.2
That's
liter
exactly what we
naturally
have here.
aspirated
I'm not going to
V8
touch it.
engine,
It's too hot right
putting
now.
out 420
This is the
horsepower and
6.2 liter
460
naturally
pound-feet
aspirated
of torque.
V8.
All of this is paired
So,
to another 10-speed
This
automatic
produces
transmission,
420 horsepower,
and will do a very
460
good
pound-feet of
job
torque.
in getting this from
All
0 to 60
paired
in
with a
around 6
10-speed
seconds.
automatic transmission.
So that is pretty good.
And
the only downside is
it has
that you get
acceptable fuel
around
economy. It's
16
really
miles
not
per
that
gallon
great.
combined
15 in the city, 20 on the highway.
Now they will be very dimensionally different because the Yukon has a width of 81 inches while the Odyssey has a width of 78
This
inches.
Odyssey goes to show that there's
And the
nothing
Odyssey
mini
has a
about
length
this
of
van.
205
It
inches,
is
while the Yukon
205.7
has
inches
a
long,
length
which is
of
the same size
225 inches.
as the 2022 Toyota.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's comparison between the Honda Odyssey and the GMC Yukon XL. In the end, the Yukon wins with the score of 12.5 to 5, Yukon and on top. So, which one is the best for you? Comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to Car Conversations and my second channel, Cat Conversations. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.